A record 5 SEC teams get into the college football playoff, and people are pissed. We're going to talk all about it. SEC squad getting together.
You're talking ball with the SEC squad. From Alabama to Tennessee, from Georgia to Oklahoma, from Auburn to Texas, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming SEC weekend. It's the SEC squad, and we have a seat for you. Hurt feelings and thin skin are prohibited. Squad up, you're part of the SEC squad.
Thin skin is prohibited unless you are a Notre Dame fan. Welcome into our SEC Squad show. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We got a panel of Corey Burton from Locked On Vandy, Stephen Willis, Locked On Ole Miss, Chris Marler from Locked On Gamecocks. I'm Chris Gordy, Locked On SEC. And guys, man, just so much reaction here in the last day or so to what we saw. We saw Georgia dominate Alabama in the SEC championship game on Saturday, led to some questions of will Alabama get in? And then on Saturday, Sunday, the playoff rankings come out, and sure enough, they did make it. Alabama is in. 5 teams from the SEC when you include Oklahoma, Georgia, Ole Miss, Alabama, and who am I missing? Texas A&M and Oklahoma. Okay. They're all in there. So reaction to what you saw. I mean, how shocked were you guys that Alabama made it?
Kind of stunned because there's been committees that have factored in championship games. There's been committees that just ignored championship games. And the thought that I had going into that is like, hey, you just took the best record out of anybody in the entire country and made it into a fluke. How would that be viewed by other people? And it turns out it didn't matter at all. Like, it didn't even matter if the game was even played. So that's good for Alabama, but that was a bad look on Saturday for them.
Yeah, it wasn't great. And I was kind of surprised too. I was like, the only thing Bama can't do in this game is get rolled. And that's what they did. They got shelled 28-7. And I was like, okay, that's going to knock them out. And, BYU, same thing. And it did knock them out. So there's some inconsistency there. And that's more so why I was confused was BYU's out. Maybe you should have put Bama out for the same reason or put BYU in if you're going to put Bama in and make it a little bit more consistent. But again, I've always been a proponent of finding ways to make sure this stuff plays out on the field. And I don't think we really got that with this committee.
Marler, what say you?
Yeah, I disagree a little bit. I was surprised. I would agree with that. I was shocked that Notre Dame was left out, considering that they are hand-given every single thing. It's the most entitled fan-based program and all that in the history of college football. That part was shocking. Now, the part with Bama, I get they looked horrible. I thought, honestly, the biggest concern was Hunter Yurachek a couple weeks ago bringing up rushing stats for the first time in the history of the playoff. And then lo and behold, they get negative 3 yards rushing, like the second worst in program history. They looked really bad, and I could see them justifying dropping in one spot for sure. They also have a win against Georgia on the road, one of only 2 teams that have done that in the last 9 years. Earlier this year, they beat Vandy, and don't forget they beat Tennessee and Mizzou back to back as well. They have a lot of
those
flaws.
Wins don't count anymore.
What's that?
Those wins don't count anymore because they're not ranked.
They still won the games, but yes, I get what you're saying. I will say that they still had the most before last night with Indiana. They had the most impressive win of anyone in the country, beating Georgia at Georgia. They looked horrible last night. I was shocked they didn't drop a spot. The bigger surprise for me, in talking about the SEC championship game not mattering, Georgia not moving up at all after their 4th win against a top 25 team, a top 10 opponent. Yeah, like Steven, you've been saying this all year, and once again, I thought that was the biggest gripe that anybody deservingly had in the rankings, because they have the same record as Ohio State. They have double the amount of ranked wins, and they have been some of the best. They've played some of their best ball late in the season as well.
Yeah, them not being number 2 is ridiculous because, obviously Indiana undefeated. Sure, undefeated.
Ohio State should have dropped to 4th.
Yeah.
Because the conference championships are supposed to matter. I, for one, welcome our automatic qualifier overlords that's going to come out of this and just welcome their inclusion on what's going on, because they are completely trying potentially to destroy the conference championship games.
Mhm.
Well, it all becomes that chicken or the egg thing. It's like, well, we can't, we had Ohio State 1, we had Indiana 2. If 2 beats 1, we can't drop 1 far because they lost to 2. You know what I mean? So it's like, and I get people say that all the time with the SEC. It's like, well, the SEC is all ranked. So when they play ranked teams, it's like, well, now you add to your resume many ranked wins. Well, it is what it is, but it's just, I agree. And when you look at the bracket and how this thing sets up, guys, I thought, I'm with you. I thought Indiana would move up to 1, deservedly so, but I thought Georgia would have been 2, and I would have put perhaps Texas Tech 3 and Ohio State 4, just because how dominant Texas Tech was over BYU for the second time this season. I thought maybe Tech did enough, but again, maybe they don't want to. It was Ohio State's first loss of the season, and it was to the best team now. So I guess maybe they didn't want to drop them that far. But it is interesting when we talk about the seeding and how the thing sets up now. That Blake Topmeyer, USA Today, wrote a whole piece basically saying it's like that game didn't even happen on Saturday between Georgia and Alabama. Like neither team moved.
Yeah.
One thing that's absolutely weird, whenever we had a 14 playoff, way back when that era was going on, you always heard whenever it was Alabama and Georgia every year that whoever lost the SEC championship game, usually Georgia, would fall down to number 4 or number 5 because they weren't conference champions. That was supposed to mean something.
Mm-hmm.
Until it doesn't, apparently it does. I don't understand the inconsistency of it. I do not like the committees, and this is coming from somebody, they completely had Ole Miss's back through all of this. I mean, there's not an Ole Miss fan in the world that can be upset about what went on, but the committee, I think they might have failed in this breakdown because of what they did with Georgia, what they did with Ohio State, and the weird decisions they did at the back of the top 12.
I also, just to piggyback on that too, because I see also one of the comments about how the entire decision today was more pro Bama than anything. I would push back on that a little, and not saying that is, like that Bama didn't catch a break by not dropping, because they absolutely did. But one of the more confusing things to me was this argument we were having, like parallel arguments for Notre Dame. Well, they lost to Miami early, they lost to A&M early, but since then they've been awesome. And you're like, okay, that's fair, but that's pretty much the bulk of the tough games on your schedule if you're Notre Dame, because you haven't had to play a lot of tough competition besides Southern Cal and maybe Pitt after that. I maintain that Bama did not get nearly enough credit for beating Georgia for most of the season. I thought they did a great job with Ole Miss. I thought they were fine with A&M, but there was inconsistencies with Miami, BYU, and Bama, and even the way they talked about BYU for most of the process, I thought was really weird. But again, like I know there's Nicole Auerbach and some of those people that are comparing BYU and the Bama loss and how one matters and one didn't. Well, BYU never beat Texas Tech. They actually never came close because they got blown out 2 times in a row. So I think it's weird that we can't just have objective arguments about that, because that part seems pretty black and white.
Yeah, it's all become team sports, literally team sports, when it comes to the people in favor of the Big Ten and the people in favor of the SEC. And you can't have, honestly, a nuanced conversation because you have to dig your heels in. And that's just the era we're in right now.
Right.
Absolutely. Do you guys think it was a little hypocritical, though, that the ranking committee said, or the committee said, basically, we're not going to fault Bama for losing an SEC championship game, yet they knocked BYU back a spot, right, for losing to Texas Tech? So I don't know. It just feels like if you're going to have that narrative that you're not going to fault anybody, and then also if you're going to go with that thought, then why are we even playing conference championship games if they're exhibitions and we're not going to do anything with the aftermath of it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that just seems odd. And going back to Chris's point, though, BYU still hasn't even got anywhere close to Texas Tech. So there's that argument. Like it's like that didn't even exist either, and they just weren't there, and that was just a warm-up game for Texas Tech. But it just goes back inconsistency, politics, money, name brands, things like that. And I did a reaction show, from Vanderbilt's perspective on that, and it was, again, they were pretty far down the list. So it's probably, whatever that they didn't make it, but still, you've got, I don't know, there's just got to be some sort of change as far as, and I think we're going to see it coming down the pike with automatic qualifiers, getting things with play-in games on this championship weekend. Like there's got to just be, and I'm going to dig my heels in on this, there's got to just be more ways to be able to get these matchups settled on the field to where you can get your playoff bracket the most objective way possible.
And if you look at Vanderbilt, by the way, they were that far away from 11-1. Literally, the ball went out of bounds that far on an onside kick where they would have the ball at the 45-yard line going in for a game-winning field goal. And Vandy didn't even get talked about as possibly being a team that could be in this playoff field. It was ridiculous how quiet that was.
And Steven, that almost reminded me, they had a better record than South Carolina and Ole Miss last year. But that's almost exactly how those two teams were talked about last year, where there was like this invisible ceiling over their potential of how high they were ever going to be ranked. I will say this again, because I genuinely try to be as objective about this as possible, look up all the numbers and blah blah blah. The idea that the SEC bias is a real thing, for one, is so heavily exaggerated. But the fact that the idea that SEC bias is what dictated the final rankings and who got in. They have been trending to have 5 teams from the SEC in this playoff for weeks now. I mean, like, I wouldn't make a case and say you should have had 6 or 7 because that seems insane. But like some of the other stuff that's also happening has nothing to do with the SEC. It feels way more biased towards those teams or those conferences. Again, Ohio State lost yesterday. They dropped 1 spot. Georgia won the SEC, the best conference in the country. They didn't move at all. I mean, Oregon is sitting there at 5. I don't know what, like, is their best win what? Iowa?
Yeah, maybe USC.
Yep, the USC.
Probably USC, yeah.
And you got that game at home. You like squeaked by Iowa. Like the idea that like the top 3 of the top 5 teams in the playoff rankings were from the Big Ten. One of the biggest issues that no one talks about is this idea that we got way ahead of our skis on with, hey, it'll be a fun Cinderella story to have a group of 5 team involved, and we get everyone like. There's more inclusion and like, so your season's not over as soon as it starts. The fact that 2 teams got in, also 2 teams that don't technically have a coach, that part messed up a ton, I think, of the final rankings and what they were able to do.
Yeah, I think the ACC commissioner should be fired for whatever tiebreaker he had in place that allowed that to happen. Yeah. Because Miami should have been in that game against Virginia and a spot guaranteed.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Go look at the resume. Like, look. We want to jump to losses so quickly, and we want to go, look, this loss is better than this loss. Talk to me about wins.
I'll talk to you about wins.
Who did you beat?
Look, I'll talk to you about wins because, Chris, you said this on your show that I listened to earlier today about wins and rankings and how do you determine rankings? Do you determine it when they play, when they match up? What are they ranked? Or do you do it all at the end of the season? Okay, you won this game. They're no longer ranked. So, because if you do it like, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Ranking at the time, South Carolina, 11th. LSU, 10 when we beat them. Missouri, 15 when we beat them. Tennessee, I think 18 or 19 when we beat them. All non-ranked, and they said that Vanderbilt did not have a signature win when they had those ranked wins. LSU fired their coach, and I think even Virginia Tech was ranked at the time that Vanderbilt played them. I think they were ranked like 24, 25, something like that. If I remember correctly, like they have a lot of these ranked wins, but again, it's the Vanderbilt factor. Oh, they must suck because Vanderbilt beat them. Let's knock them out of the race. And you know, because South Carolina fell apart after that. LSU fell apart. Virginia Tech fell apart. And it was, you know, I don't.
The point I was trying to make though was Notre Dame has no resume wins. Like USC is their best win.
That is also true.
And if you really want to give them Pitt was ranked the week they played them. Like they were not ranked, and then they got ranked, and then they were unranked again. So it was kind of like they almost did that to give them another top 25 win.
And here's the thing. This is like what we probably should have opened with. The numbers that the committee is regurgitating and basing their rankings off of, right? FPI a little bit, but like strength of record, strength of schedule, opponent win percentage, how many teams with winning records did you beat? Like all those things. In terms of Alabama, Notre Dame, and BYU and Miami, Alabama was ahead of all 3 of those teams by a very wide margin. They're the only team in the top 12 that was top 12 in strength of schedule, strength of record, and then I think FPI or something like that. They had a higher opponent winning percentage than almost anybody besides Oklahoma. Like all the numbers back up Alabama's resume. But again, back to the SEC bias thing, like Corey just said, you talk about how Missouri and Tennessee got bounced towards the end of the season. So you no longer have those wins. In the same week, Iowa jumped into the top 25, a team that Indiana and Oregon had both played. They had the same exact record, 8-4. They had 0 wins against ranked opponents. But what the committee said was, well, they had a couple of close losses. So again, I don't know why we're so hell-bent on the losses, whether they're good, bad, or Florida State, because I think that's the category of its own. But like, I don't understand why this goalpost is moved, not even just year to year, but week to week.
Yep. The other thing I was going to add too, I had to go back and look this up because the whole James Madison Tulane thing, should they be in, shouldn't they? I've been on this podium for a couple of years now. 1 through 12 is how your final ranking should be. That should be the teams 1 through 12. None of this, you win a conference, you move to the front of the line. None of this, you win a conference, you're automatically in. Because some years good conferences are going to be loaded. Some years conferences are going to be down. And I get it. People go, well, the SEC and the Big Ten are always going to be at the top. They have the best teams. It's probably going to work out that way most years. But you look at Boise last year. I had to go back and look it up. Do you know where Boise was ranked at the end of the season? I know they moved them up to 3 because they were the Mountain West Conference champion. But if Boise was in this group, do you know where they would be ranked? This year, this time last year, they were ranked 9.
Yeah,
right.
They were the number 9 team. Guess what? They would have been in if you took 1 through 12. So that's a message to the Tulanes and the James Madisons is, guys, this can be done. You can come from a group of 5 and be in the playoff. You just got to be ranked in the final top 12. I don't think that's a crazy ask.
40, they got a bye. Like, but
Right.
Again, you know, like the flaws of the system, that is a team that they were very exciting to watch. They were 12-1, but the only Power 4 opponent they played last year was Oregon, and they lost to them. And so they get in, and then they get a 3 seed, which means they get a bye. And then the other part of that same weekend, we were all sitting here talking about, okay, well, listen, if Iowa State and Arizona State, the winner of that game is in the playoff. This is like like do or die. It's a 1-game playoff to get into the 12-team field. The loser of that game was going to the Pop-Tart Bowl, by the way. Pretty stark drop-off. But not only did Arizona State win that game and get in the playoff, they jumped from 16th in the country to a 4 seed. And so, like, it's hard to wrap your head around. And every time Hunter Yurchek opens his mouth, it makes it even harder.
You know, I'm at the point where you start seeing these 24-team brackets on Twitter with the 4 automatic qualifiers for every Power 4 conference. And then the G5 has 2, and there's like 6 at-large berths. This committee is not fixable the way it is. The way the whole narrative around college football is right now, it will never get done right. So my thing that I think everybody should do, let's send it back to the conferences. Let them pick who their top 4 representatives are through their tiebreakers. Do something like that. Get the at-large berths if it's there, because nobody's going to argue if the 22nd team is not in. So it's not going to be the same thing. I think that is the best way forward. Just match the FCS essentially and just go with it.
There's nothing wrong with the FCS model. And maybe even, you know, if you wanted to, there's another way as far as getting G5 their shot at a national championship. Just go high school style and just classifications. Like Division I is 3 classifications. You have P4, G5, and FCS, and they all play for their own national championship. And you seed it however you want to seed it. Have a unified bracket style. Like I like FCS style, so maybe just adopt that for G5, adopt that for P4. And let's freaking go, man. And I think everybody would watch that. And I think that would be compelling TV. G5 has their games Tuesday through Thursday, Power 4 on the weekends, and FCS keep doing what you're doing because it's working.
Good grief. They would get all my money. Every day.
I'll finish by saying this. Like I agree with most of the points you guys are making, like about there are so many flaws to this thing. How about the fact that there's only 12 members of the committee right now? They're supposed to have 13. Right. So you could have a tiebreaker in the room, and that has been gone for weeks. Hunter Yurchek, in the middle of trying to hire a head coach, is now like thrust into like the committee chairperson or whatever. I think the other thing is this though: if they push it back and go to 14 teams, they go to 16 teams. We're going to be here next year and the year after saying whoever's 17th and 18th, and like arguing about who should be in at that spot as well. I've never been a proponent of automatic bids, like 4 for Big Ten, 4 for the SEC. But I do like the idea at this point, especially the way this season's gone. If you did a championship weekend where you have the top 6 teams from the conference, and you have 1 versus 2 playing for the conference championship, and then 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5, the winners of those 2 games go. I'm pretty sure Tony Petitti, the Big Ten commissioner, came up with that idea. So I want to hate it, but I would love that at this point.
You want to fix it, do that. I mean, again, like I said at the very beginning, put as much on the field as you can. Put as much decision-making on the field head-to-head as you can, and then go from there. And I think the flaws will be very minute. If you're arguing 17 and 18, okay, that argument doesn't hit as hard as arguing 13 and 14, and definitely doesn't hit as hard as 5 and 6. So it's it just gets weaker every single year the more you expand, and then you guarantee you get the right teams in there. And then it'll all sort itself out. The team that's supposed to win will win. That's usually how it works. Like my man Macho Man right here says, the cream will rise to the top. So
when we return, guys, we will we'll get into this bracket and talk about the paths for some of the SEC teams coming up next. Hey, first I want to remind all of our listeners the World Cup is back. If you missed the draw, that came out just a couple days ago, and it's back in North America for the first time since 1994. And if you want tickets, the best place to find them is with the Gametime app. It is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Gametime, you can track ticket prices in real time. You can get alerts when great seats open up. You can buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands. It makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets for the World Cup, or hey, maybe you're going to a playoff game this weekend or next weekend. You want to get in and see your favorite SEC team. They've got those up there at the Gametime app as well. Download Gametime, create an account, use our code LOCKEDONCollege, get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the Gametime app, make an account, use our code LOCKEDONCollege, get $20 off, swipe, tap, ticket, go with Gametime. Also, want to remind you guys about our friends at Omaha Steaks. It is the holiday season, and look, the holidays come with 2 big goals: feeding people well and finding gifts they actually love, and you can get both handled in one move with the Omaha Steaks. They've got their Sizzle All the Way sale going on right now. You can stock up, save in a huge way, half off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. And for Locked On College listeners, get an extra $35 off with code college at checkout. I think I might send Corey, Steven, and Marler some gifts this holiday season. Hey. Save big on gourmet gifts and more holiday favorites at Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com. Get half off site-wide during their Sizzle All the Way sale. For an extra $35 off, use our promo code college at checkout. Terms apply. See their site for details. It's omahasteaks.com. Promo code college. All right, gents, as we get back into it, let's take a look at the playoff rankings here as we, and I lost my graphic here. Here it is. Here is how the field sets up. So you got Georgia, Ohio State, Indiana, and Texas Tech. Those are all your top 4 seeds. They all get a bye in the first round. So the first round games, James Madison, Oregon. Can't think of an easier path for Oregon, but they should dispose of James Madison.
Cleveland versus Oregon.
And they will take on Texas Tech. Then we've got Alabama, Oklahoma, and this is, of course, a rematch of a game we saw a couple weeks ago, but the venue shifts. Oklahoma got the best of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. This time we had to Norman. And Marler, I saw the forecast in Norman for next Friday. It is calling for snow, and Alabama can't run the football. What do you make of that forecast?
Well, they're going to wear white jerseys and white pants in that game on the road. So I think that there could be a situation if it's snowing a lot. Maybe Oklahoma's defense doesn't see any of the offensive linemen they're trying to get through. I mean, that, or like any of the running backs trying to carry the ball. That's probably their best bet. I will also say Ty Simpson having to see his receivers in a dome without snow isn't great right now. So we'll see how that goes.
That well said. I mean, yeah. I don't know. That snow, that's going to be fun. Yeah. College football playoff in snow.
Starting off the playoffs with that game, that's fantastic. I mean, what's the line in that game? 1.5 points or something like that on FanDuel.
Bama by 2.5 on the road.
Yeah.
Also, isn't it kind of funny that we've heard for years, well, SEC teams don't want to come up and play in the cold against the Big Ten, and then your first SEC versus SEC matchup is going to be in a snowstorm between 2 tornado states.
Yeah. So it should be pretty interesting. I'm looking forward to that game. I do think that Alabama is going to bounce back from what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. I do think the next 2 weeks they kind of have the opportunity to get right a little bit. So maybe Alabama in the run game, they figure out a way to scheme that up just a little bit more, because Oklahoma's defense, man, as Alabama fans are well aware, that group is legit.
Yeah.
And look, no offense to Indiana, but I've heard today from both Bama and Oklahoma fans going, man, I like our chance in the next round. Like, it's no offense against Indiana. I know they've played what, 2 tough teams all year, Oregon, Ohio State. They beat them both. Give them credit. But go look at the rest of the teams Indiana's been playing. It's been a bunch of high school teams. Like, I think Oklahoma and Alabama are saying we're a little bit more battle tested than Indiana.
Wait, but didn't Indiana have to play those 2 really tough opponents back-to-back weeks? Or was it? Oh,
no.
Never mind. It was 2 months apart. Never
Right.
mind. Okay, I forgot about that. Yeah. What a system.
Yeah. Again, and the funniest quote I heard last week from a Texas fan was the realization, and went, dude, the SEC's no joke. Like, every week it's a battle. I'm like, I literally told you this 2 years ago, and you went, nah, no big deal. We're going to cruise through the SEC. I'm like, you don't know until you get here, all right?
It's tough.
Yeah. It's different.
It is different. We're built different. Caleb Downs said it. He said, in the Big Ten, you get 4 or 5 games, and that's about it. In the SEC, it's every week.
Yeah.
That was wild.
Speaking of rematches, we get another rematch. It is Tulane at Ole Miss. And I know we played this game, about 3 months ago. I think this one could be different. Tulane's a team that's been playing much better. John Summerall, obviously, he's 1 foot out the door to Florida, but wants to finish strong. And, of course, the elephant in the room, Steven, no Lane Kiffin. How does this Ole Miss team look?
Well, Charlie Weiss has been calling the plays for 3 years now. So as long as Charlie Weiss is there, they're probably going to be okay offensively. I think this is, instead of a 45-10, this is probably a 35-24 type game, something like that. I think Kejuan Lacey is going to get off because he wasn't what he turned into at the end of the season against Tulane the first time they met. And Ole Miss has so many weapons offensively. It's not a really good matchup for Tulane, and Pete Golding, the whole defense is there. And the problem that Tulane had in the first game is that they couldn't do anything offensively because of Ole Miss's defense in their front line.
Yeah.
So I think that probably bodes pretty well. Setting up another rematch, that's great. The committee, we're talking about that. It's rematch against Tulane to set up a rematch against Georgia. So, yeah, good job there, committee.
And, Steven, if Notre Dame would have gotten in over Miami, we would have had 3 games in the first weekend or first round. There were rematches, and the only one that would have been the worst matchup in general. But I'll tell you what I'm excited for is, like, I want to see what this Ole Miss team is going to look like with everything that's happened over the past couple of weeks. There's not a single part of me that thinks they are not going to come out on fire with the offense like humming and trying to prove a point. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun because, one, a home game in Oxford in December is going to be great, but 2, I think they're like America's team right now. Like I think everyone's going to be pulling for them. But like, just with the way everything transpired with Kiffin, I think everyone's going to be pretty pumped about that.
Yeah, if you're not in Baton Rouge, you're rooting for Ole Miss in the playoffs, no matter who they're playing.
I'm in Baton Rouge, and I'm pulling for them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it should be interesting. And hey, Trinidad Chambliss had an AT&T commercial during championship weekend.
That was funny.
I mean, yeah, it's all coming up Millhouse right now for Ole Miss.
Yeah, he's in the portal to AT&T.
Well, can I tell you something too, Steven? Lane Kiffin is rooting for Ole Miss, so he wants you guys to win too. So,
yeah, he's
well, hey, if LSU
good guy alert.
If he's going to pay him money for Ole Miss winning games, good on him, I guess.
It is interesting though how it sets up because we've seen Ole Miss Tulane already. They beat the hell out of them, and then Georgia, a game that they hung with them the whole game, and 1 or 2 plays here or there, they win that game.
One missed tackle,
2 drives away from being 12-0.
Yeah, 1 missed tackle on a 4th and 2. Ole Miss wins that game.
Our last game.
Those are facts.
Our last game, guys, I thought it was interesting because all the playoff projections, Brett McMurphy and everybody had Alabama going to Kyle Field to play A&M, and that didn't happen. It ends up it's going to be Miami going to Kyle Field, and I kind of feel bad for the Aggies. They end up getting screwed with the 11 a.m. Central kickoff next Saturday. I thought, if you were picking games for primetime, I would have put James Madison, Oregon in the 11 a.m. slot and Miami A&M in the primetime slot, but it is what it is. But look, Miami's a good team. I know it was all this talk about will they make the playoff and all this, but they're walking into a hornet's nest. A&M at home, Kyle Field. 11 a.m. or 11 p.m. That place is going to be rocking. What do you guys make of this one?
I think that ESPN and ABC made the most of their sublet contract with TNT in this one, because their games is Alabama and Oklahoma and Miami and Texas A&M, and they just left Tulane and Ole Miss and James Madison, Oregon for TNT. I think that was clearly about a network kind of taking care of itself.
Yeah, no doubt. And Carson Beck is going to be in a blender, man. It's going to be insane. Like, I think A&M has a chance to roll here.
I'm excited to see this one, because I think if you get good Carson Beck that's not throwing into triple coverage, this is an Aggie defense that I think can get got. I said this a couple weeks ago, and it was, I think after the Oklahoma game, I think Alabama lost like 3 or 4 starters that went down with injuries between then and the game yesterday. But I felt them going up against A&M. I think A&M is the worst team out of the 5 SEC teams in the field. They're the least battle tested. We talked about Indiana, how they haven't played anybody. I mean, this is an A&M team they've had a great season for sure, but 7 wins against teams that are in the bottom 8 in the conference, and none against a team with a winning record in the conference. I think it was a combined 12-44 for those teams they beat in the SEC. They have a lot of talent, and this will be, I think, a fun, high-scoring game with some really good edge play too from both defenses. But I don't think A&M's that good. It'll be very interesting to see how this one plays out.
Yeah, pressure seems to hurt Marcel Reed right now. He's not at the point where he's not affected by pressure. If he has to have a play, he tends to throw it to the other team, and that's something that reared its ugly head against Texas.
What's the over/under on interceptions with him and Carson Beck?
Oh, Beck's throwing 2 at least. So
yeah, take
4.
Yeah,
3.5, something like that.
I just see it as if Carson Beck starts throwing into triple coverage and gets 2 or 3 picked off, like that's some momentum that the Aggies could absolutely take advantage of and just be able to just collect points. And then all of a sudden this thing gets separated and you're like, how did Miami get down 21 points? Oh yeah, Carson Beck threw a pick 6 and two other back-breaking picks, and you're sitting there scratching your head. Like it play out if it plays out like the Louisville game, I think A&M will run away with it. But if Miami can hang in there and if Carson Beck can make good decisions and they can get after Marcel Reed, I could see it flipping back the other way. So it's either going to be a close Miami win, or I think Texas A&M is going to run away with it if they win.
Just to kind of advance it, do you think either of those teams, whoever it is, Miami or A&M, is losing in the next round to Ohio State?
Oh, that's a good question.
That is a good question. Conventional wisdom would say yes, but after seeing Ohio State last night, I'm not 100% positive. But I would probably, if it had to come down to it right now, I would say, yeah, Ohio State could beat both of those teams.
And I will say this about Miami and A&M: they both have the blue chip ratio to step on a field with Ohio State and compete. So that literally could go either way, because Indiana. Has everybody seen Indiana's like blue chip ratio, what they have going on? If Indiana wins the national championship, it's like a G5 team essentially doing it, because it's like 7 4-stars in their entire roster.
Well, Cignetti's a badass. I think we've.
Yeah. Oh, he's awesome.
Just ask him.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Google him. The other thing I should mention here too, guys, is venue. Ohio State that is going to be the Cotton Bowl in Dallas. Guess what? Aggie fans will infiltrate the Cotton Bowl. I mean, you're talking first time ever A&M in a playoff game. They're going to buy all those tickets. Ohio State was just in the Cotton Bowl last year playing Texas. They travel well. I'm just telling you, Aggies will take over that stadium. And then the other one is Tulane Ole Miss. If Tulane somehow upsets Ole Miss, the Sugar Bowl is in New Orleans with Georgia. Tulane, all their fans. I don't know how many fans they have, but they'll take over that stadium.
Ole Miss will travel to New Orleans more than Tulane would.
Yeah, there will be 50,000 Ole Miss fans at the Sugar Bowl. Georgia will be actually outnumbered in that game if it happens.
And then poor Alabama, if they beat Oklahoma, their reward is you have to go all the way out to the West Coast to the Rose Bowl to play Indiana. So
there's a classic Rose Bowl matchup between 2 basketball schools. It's going to be great.
One thing real quick, I want to stick up real quick for Texas Tech. The Cotton Bowl is their ancestral home before all these mega conferences started happening. And they just had the best season in their history. Essentially, they won the Big 12. They should be playing in the Cotton Bowl. Send Ohio State, who lost the Big Ten championship to Miami, put Texas Tech in the Cotton Bowl because their fan base deserves it.
I agree with that.
They don't do things that make sense.
Yeah.
Last thing here, guys. Do want to take a look at the other bowl games. Texas, Michigan in the Citrus Bowl, I think can be very entertaining. Vanderbilt, sorry, no playoff. You get to go play Iowa in the ReliaQuest Bowl.
Yay.
Hey, Vandy's going to bring both their fans to that one.
Mizzou, Virginia in the Gator Bowl. Tennessee, spacing issue here. Tennessee versus Illinois in the Music City. Texas Bowl will be LSU versus Houston. That's pretty interesting because LSU's got so many fans in Houston. And then shout out Mississippi State at 5-7. Everybody starts opting on bowl games. Mississippi State says, we'll go. They're going to the Duke's Mayo Bowl versus Wake. What do you guys think of those other bowl games?
Mississippi State for the third time in like 10 or 11 years is going to a bowl game at 5-7. This happens about every 3 years at Mississippi State, but good for them. The Duke's Mayo Bowl. I think Jeff Lebby taking a Mayo bath, which is actually a real possibility in this year. Yeah, it could be pretty funny, but yeah, good for Mississippi State having those practice. Kamario Taylor. That's where having the extra spring actually helps somebody like Kamario Taylor.
He looks good too. He looks like he has flashes where he looks like he'd be pretty good. There's not a single game outside of Texas, Michigan that really piques my interest on that. I thought if you bring the thing back up, Gordy, looking at this over the past couple of weeks, like in projections, I thought they had a couple of like really good matchups they could have gone with that they completely whiffed on. And Mizzou playing Virginia instead of Mizzou playing Illinois, when that's a pretty classic rivalry between two bordering states. I thought that Vandy getting Virginia in the Gator Bowl and then sending Tennessee to the ReliaQuest against Iowa, like also sending LSU back to the Texas Bowl for the second straight year. It feels like there was a couple misses, and I think somehow it was bad enough with what Corey said about the playoff and how Vandy got screwed there, but sending them to Tampa instead of being in the Gator Bowl, which I think is the second highest rated like SEC bowl game, that also kind of sucks.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there was one projection before Miami got into the playoff that I thought would have been outstanding, and they had Vandy in the Gator Bowl versus Miami. I would have loved that matchup, but obviously Miami got in the playoff, and so now we got Vanderbilt versus Iowa. I would have also liked to see Vanderbilt possibly play Illinois. That would have been a fun matchup, or much more fun matchup than Iowa. But
at least the SEC didn't do their normal thing of sending Vandy to the Music City Bowl.
Yeah,
no, they sent Tennessee.
Yeah. Which again, I think this is all about like selling tickets. Like LSU will sell tickets in Houston, Tennessee will sell tickets in Nashville. So I think there's kind of a little bit there. I had to fix the spacing there.
At least Vandy has a Florida Bowl. They deserve it for this season. At least they have something.
Yeah, you get to go where it's sunny. Last thing, guys, before we get out of here, the betting lines up at FanDuel right now. Alabama still a 2.5-point road favorite at Oklahoma to the team they just lost to a few weeks ago. But I think they watched OU's offense against LSU's defense in that season finale and went, OU.
Brother, they probably watched the first Bama OU game. They outgained them by double the yards and had 3 turnovers.
But here's the thing. You think Alabama's not – they turned the ball over like crazy in Tuscaloosa. You think they're not going to turn it over in Norman?
Especially
it'll be interesting, man. I think like that was a – you had 2 of those that were inside of your own 30-yard line, and you lost by 2. I think that was such a like that loss is the one that actually mattered and messed with like the perception of Alabama way more than Florida State.
Put it this way: if there was neutral field, I'd feel good. I'd probably lean Bama. It's in Norman on a Friday night. Like it's going to be tough. Bama's going to have to play flawless football, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's going to be a madhouse. It's going to be an absolute madhouse.
The other ones real quick, Miami or A&M is a 3.5-point home favorite. It sounded like Marlon and a few of y'all were leaning towards Miami in the straight up upset. And then of course the crooked numbers for the 2 G5 teams there. And I don't know, again, Ole Miss 17.5. Ole Miss can win by 17 and Tulane still covers. So
yeah. That is a stay away from it bet, in my opinion. I think Ole Miss is going to win fairly comfortably, but I wouldn't want to count on it.
All right, real quick, guys, rapid fire. Who's your championship winner? I'll go first. I'm riding with Georgia. Corey, go.
Georgia.
Steven?
I'm going to say Ole Miss. Damn it.
You were going to say. Yeah. Marler?
Yeah.
I'm going to say Georgia beats Indiana.
Okay. Doesn't it feel like, though, if Georgia beats
And Auburn claims the national title.
if Georgia beats Ohio State in the semis, Georgia's going to be whoever the hell they get in the championship, right? I mean, that's kind of
they might do that anyway, but yeah, I mean, they are peaking at the right time.
They're a handful, man. They are a real handful. It's amazing. A group of 5 stars that good. Weird, right?
Yeah.
For Corey Burton, Stephen Willis, Chris Marler, I'm Chris Gordy. Thank you guys for tuning into our SEC Squad show. And make sure to follow and subscribe to whatever your favorite SEC show is and get all the latest episodes. And look, if your favorite Locked On show made your Spotify Wrap, prove it on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. You just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform, and we'll drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. For those of you on video, we'll send you to the first ever 24/7 national Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen Locked On College Football. This has been our Squad reaction show. We'll talk to you guys later this week.